What's going on, guys? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. In today's video, I'm going to be presenting to you something that I've made that has basically laid out the entire process of transforming your physique while improving your athleticism so that you can look and feel your best without having to give up your lifestyle. I'm also going to give you a little background on the trial and error periods that I went through, who I am, my journey, so that you can see literally everything that I tested, as well as understand how my mechanism now will save you all the time that I ended up having to spend learning all this stuff. So get ready to take some notes. This is going to be a little bit of a longer video, not much editing to it because it's going to be a lot of me talking and explaining everything to you guys. So if this may be a video that you can't sit through or it's too long, this video might not be for you. I'm going to break down everything for you so that you guys can do this and feel how I feel confident, look your best, and ultimately live your best life. So I'm going to go ahead and get into it right now. So in this presentation I've built for you guys, I'm going to run you through everything that I've learned from my own trial and error, and then how I was able to build my mechanism or my method that allows me to improve my physique so I can look and feel my best while also improving my athleticism and not having to give up my life. And I practice this every single day. Also, all of my clients do so as well. So this is how I transformed my physique in 90 days while improving my athleticism so I could look and feel my best without having to give up my life. So first, we're going to kind of break down my background and the base of me, who am I, where I came from. No one in my family was super fit. My dad instilled in me at a young age that physical fitness, health, preserving your body so that you can be able-bodied for as long as possible was important, and he always led by example. My dad would run marathons. He would always practice with me. I grew up playing sports, so he would always coach me. He'd throw me BP, he'd hit me grounders, he'd play football with me, he'd guard me in basketball, he'd run with me, he'd do all those things with me. However, my dad wasn't really big on he's not as into this as I eventually became, but he's still in he still showed me the importance of physical fitness and health. There was also a point where I really got a glimpse as to how important my physical fitness was and just having an able, functional body. When I was 14, I actually broke my leg and I had a cast that was all the way up to my hip, and that inhibited the hinging of my knee. So I couldn't walk. And this cast was massive. Imagine your full leg, like my toes to my hip were in the cast. And it happened to me when I was 14. And imagine going from like a competitive athlete to, next thing you know, you can't walk on your own. You need an army to help you shower. You're rolling around in a wheelchair. Cast comes off. Your leg is the size of your arm. Your muscle is atrophied. You forgot how to jump. And you're in months of rehab. And so suddenly, every problem that I ever faced had went away, and all I wanted to do was be able to walk and be able to do things by myself and on my own and not need someone's help to do something that was so simple before. I wanted to be able to sweat and jump and practice physical fitness, and I couldn't. And at the time, I was really, really frustrated with my leg being broken. I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna forget how to play my sport. I'm gonna suck. I'm not gonna progress. This is such a huge setback." But now when I reflect, I'm like, I'm so, so incredibly thankful that that happened to me, because some people feel that frustration way too damn late in life. They feel it when they're 50, 60, or sometimes even earlier because they never prioritize their health, right? They are carrying around such a big gut that their knees buckle, and now you're 60 and you can't play with your grandkids. And I'm very lucky that I experienced losing my basic function for a few months at that age. And it really taught me gratitude with it. So that instilled those things paired together instilled that in me at a very young age. Didn't mean that this was easy for me by no any means. It didn't mean that I had everything figured out, but I'm very, very lucky to have experienced those things at the age that I did. I tried a lot of different methods to attempt my dream physique since I had been in competitive sports since at a young age. When I started t-ball when I was 3 years old, I'd always been around athletes and I've been around people training. And I think maybe when I was like 10, I would do crunches and sit ups to try to get my dream physique. And then as I got older and I started, okay, trying to figure out eating and all that kind of stuff, I would do a lot of training, different kinds of styles of training, a lot of cardio. I would try keto and being terrified of a carb. I would try fasting and not eating at certain times and eating as little as possible. I literally tried everything that I could think of. And although everything yielded me some sort of result, the amount of effort it took was not worth it. And so I was like, there's got to be another way because I see so many people doing this and it seems like so easy for them to maintain, which means that I must be approaching this incorrectly one way or another, right? Let me move my head out of the way here so I can see the last thing. After years of oops, after years of oh, come on. After years of oh my gosh, sorry. After years of collecting data, I was able to find out the best method of achieving my dream physique and improving my athleticism. So it took those periods of trial and error for me to understand what did work and what didn't work. And I am glad that I went through all those things so that I could understand not only the mentality and the mindset that one felt in that, but also seen for myself that it really didn't work. Now, I want to preach that I hope you guys learn from my mistakes and not your own because that'll save you a fuck ton of time. And that's how we make the fastest progress. So I'm glad that I was able to see it firsthand. However, I did also do a lot of research on YouTube and stuff, so I didn't try as many things that I could have. I did see what other people were doing, and I was like, okay, this clearly doesn't work. But that only narrowed it down to a handful of things. And then I was like, okay, these also don't work. There's got to be another way. And so you can see over here, these are just some photos of when I used to really struggle. I am big on the psychological side and the physiological side of developing yourself. And over here on the left is when I struggled with both of those things. So I lacked on the mental side and I also lacked on the physical side. And then you can see here on the right was the transformation. It was both a mental and physical one that I'm going to highlight in this video, but I just kind of wanted to tell you the difference between these two sides if it wasn't obvious, which it should be. But now we can go ahead and get into the second part of the breakdown. Now, before we go any further, I want to highlight who this is for. So, if you're burnt out and tired of looking in the mirror and feeling disappointed, and you're wearing loose clothes and you know that you can do more, this is who that's for. If you feel like your effort should be yielding more results, so you're spinning your wheels, you're doing a lot, but you're just not seeing it on the other side, you're not seeing it produce anything for you. If you wish you could take your shirt off in the gym, at the beach, or anywhere, anytime, and feel confident in yourself and show your hard work. And until you feel that, you won't know how fucking awesome it feels. So if there's anything that I can do to encourage you, it's telling you that it feels fucking amazing. If you're super busy working towards your career goals, working long hours at a desk, have a lot of responsibility, and you don't have to work a traditional 9 to 5. I'm not trying to say that you have to have a specific job to do this. I'm just saying we are all working towards something. So if you have that drive and that passion, you just don't know how to direct it, this is perfect for you. That's what I'm trying to insinuate with that bullet point specifically. And you're tired of all that work that you're putting towards that personal goal, whether it be career, money, anything, but it's costing you your health and appearance, this is for you. If you're looking to build an unbreakable mindset that will correlate to success in all other areas of your life, this is for you. And if you're ready to break out of the binge eating cycle with a plan that's sustainable, enjoyable, this is for you. Now, I've made a video about this before, but breaking out of that binge eating cycle is very difficult. Any negative cycle, for that matter, is very, very difficult. Now, having that unbreakable mindset that you need to be able to get out of that cycle is something that will correlate to success in all other aspects of your life. And I'm saying that firsthand. Building your dream physique is the easiest way to teach yourself how to persevere, how to be consistent, how to be disciplined with absolutely no downside. Think about it like this: you go to start a business, you have to invest money, or there's something at stake for you to lose if it doesn't work out. Whereas committing to becoming the best physical version of yourself, as well as the best mental version of yourself, there's absolutely no downside except for the amount of effort that you have to put in. But the desire for things to be easy and the reluctancy to give that effort is exactly what's keeping you stuck and why you can't be successful anywhere else. And so this is the easiest way to teach yourself how to be successful with absolutely nothing on the line. If that's not enough of a encourager for you, or if that doesn't encourage you enough, your health and wellness is going to be very, very important when you age and get older. It may seem negligible and not like a fucking problem now or not a big deal now, but I promise you there will be a day that comes because time is not kind to any of us, but there will be a day that comes where you're gonna want to run and you're gonna be like, whoa, why am I so slow? Or, oh, I can't do things as well as I used to. And it's going to start to hit you. And you'd rather prolong or push that off as long as possible. And the best way that you can do that is by prioritizing your health, your wellness, your physical fitness, your physique's functionality now. And then down here at the bottom, I just have like some examples of client stuff. If you want to see more of my clients, they're highlighted on my Instagram as well as a couple videos there. And I've also made YouTube videos on my channel with some of their progressions. I need to make more of them, but I will do that in the future. There are some videos on my channel, however, highlighting the first couple of weeks and how we ultimately got started because I know that the beginning of your fitness journey is the hardest to start. So after this video, after you take notes, go down to those videos and then that'll help you get started on the journey. Okay, let's get into who this is not for. Who this is not for. If you want this to be quick and easy, this is not for you. If you are not ready to understand that you will need to change to transform and you think that this is just going to be some vanity based transformation, this is not for you. If you are in the victim mindset and blame everything else for your circumstances, if you make excuses and say, it's not my fault, it's so and so's fault, and you don't accept that if something is in your way, regardless of whose fault it is, you must conquer it to get where you want to be. And trying to put fault on someone else or blame someone else is still going to mean that you're not going to get there and now you're blaming someone else, so you're giving away all your power. This program is for someone who wants to gain that control, which means they'll take more responsibility. If you're only in this to get a six pack, like I said, if it's a vanity based goal for you, it's going to get when the going gets tough, you're not going to give a fuck about your abs. You're going to want to binge, you're going to want to skip, you're going to want to take a nap, you're going to want to give up if that's all you're doing this for. If you're not willing to break old habits, those old habits will eventually cause you to gain the fat again. So if you're not, again, understanding that you need to change, you could do this for maybe a few weeks and stick to it, but eventually you will succumb and fall back into those old negative patterns that you have. So if you're not willing to do the work necessary to break that and eventually persevere and stay there and not fall back, then this is not for you. If you're not willing to allow the journey to improve your mental fortitude, discipline, and consistency, I'm going to break this down for you in the simplest way possible. However, do not let that make you think that this is easy. The reason that it's difficult is because it takes time. It forces you to grow in the process, both mentally and physically, which is going to make you think that it's difficult. That difficulty is going to increase your principles of mental fortitude, discipline, and consistency. And if you are not okay with that, you will not succeed here. You will not succeed with this mechanism. It's just not for you. You might just click out of the video now. And if you're not willing to make sacrifices to achieve the confidence and freedom that this will yield you, this is not for you. And that's okay if this is not for you. That's why I'm doing this now and not, oops, that's why I'm doing this now and not any further into my presentation when I break it down so I can save both of us the time. So if you're still with me here, let's go ahead and continue on in the presentation so that you can do this for yourself. Let's talk about what most people did or do and what I did and what I struggled with and all that kind of stuff so that you can take that off your list now and don't think about trying it. So most people want to eat as little as possible. They're always in a deficit. They're always cutting, always trying to lose weight, always trying to be skinny. And I know that because I did that. And I've also been friends with, coached people, and just seen people who do the same. They always try to find food hacks or low calorie, sugar free. This is 0 calories and you can eat as much as you want. They always try to do all that. They do a lot of cardio, etc. And then they fall off because, I mean, as I typed right there, in what world would that even be enjoyable? It should not be a nightmare to maintain this physique. And I'm going to tell you right now, there is no world where I found that fun and enjoyable. And it made it really difficult for me because I was hurt. I tried that. It was not worth it. It was not worth it trying to do all these low calorie hacks and all this kind of stuff. And it just, I got burnt out. This ultimately left me and other people that I coach now, when they told me that they tried to do this on their own, it left us all skinny fat, burnt out, ruined metabolism because all this low calorie over restriction ultimately ruins your metabolism because you're teaching your body to basically use nothing to perform. And so your metabolism is already so low when it is time to properly cut and lose weight. Where are we going to go? We have no room because you're already at rock bottom. There's nowhere to go from there. So that leaves us stuck, frustrated, and we're convinced it doesn't work, and we think that we're just the kind of person that's not meant to have that. And I'm saying that because that was me. And I know that a lot of people feel that way, and if there's anything I can do to help younger me, I'm going to do it, and that's what I'm doing with this video. Let's get into the proper approach or the correct way to go about it. You want to eat foods that make you feel, look, and think your best. And you need to understand that you can eat a lot of food and look shredded. Okay, this whole idea that looking shredded and looking lean and having your dream physique is because you don't eat is not true, is not how you should go about it, and it's just going to leave you miserable. You're probably going to be mean, bitter, angry because you're not eating shit, and your physique is going to be mid, if you can even maintain it. Another part is when we don't know how to go about nutrition, we tend to overtrain when it comes to cardio and lifting. Training needs to be a part of your lifestyle, not your life. When training becomes a part of your life because you're inefficiently maintaining this physique, you will eventually become burnt out because you can't do anything but go to the gym and track your food. And that's not how anyone wants to live. Maybe you can do it for a few months, but like I said, you're eventually going to fall back. You don't want to have to overdo it. You want to be able to train enough where it produces the results that you're looking for, but also makes it something that you still enjoy. Because if you're doing it every single day, you're not going to enjoy it. You're going to get burnt out. And the way that we do that is by utilizing calorie manipulation for fat loss and muscle growth. We use efficient workouts, eliminating exercise redundancy because exercise redundancy is the number one killer of time. The reason that your exercises are or the reason that your workouts are inefficient or you're spending so much damn time in the gym is 9 times out of 10 either because you lack a plan or you don't know what you're doing or exercise redundancy, breaking the mental barriers that keep you stuck in the cycle above. So being stuck in that cycle of undereating, overtraining, and feeling burnt out, a lot of the reason that you feel that way is because of mental barriers that are keeping you stuck. For example, why do you starve yourself and not eat anything? Well, you think that food is the enemy because you abused it at one point to lead you to be overweight or carry more body fat than you'd like. And so now you're trying to cut it out as aggressively as possible because you're so insecure and frustrated with where you're at that you can't take it anymore. So you take a very inefficient, aggressive approach that is not going to give you results. And so you're making those decisions based off your insecurity and your frustration. And so, in order to break through that mental barrier, you need to become stronger, build more mental fortitude so you can handle that insecurity and that frustration, take it on the chin, but still make decisions using reason and logic and not being in such a damn rush because you're so insecure. Next is conditioning yourself to become this person. Let's be real. If you're somewhere where you don't want to be, it's because of who you are. That's the only different thing or differentiating factor between all of us on planet Earth. So every little action that we take gives us the reality that we live in. If you do not like the reality or the results of your little actions, you need to become that person. Who you are now and who you're going to be after you do this transformation are going to be two different people. That's a change that's required. It's not like you're not just changing your body, you're changing yourself because your current self is giving you this result that made you click on this video because you want to change. So you yourself have to change, and that's when you're going to see the changes in your physique. They're going to change concurrently. All right, let me move myself back down here. Now, I don't want you to stress because I'm not going to let you fall into that cycle that we discussed at the beginning of that slide. I don't want you, if you're there already, then consider yourself saved. If you're not there yet, don't even bother attempting because I want you to learn from my mistakes so that you don't have to go through months of this trial and error and you understand right here what the mechanism is that's going to work. So you don't have to feel all that extra frustration. You don't have to eat nothing and train every day and do hours of cardio. You can eat your favorite foods, you can cook your favorite meals, and you can train in the style that you enjoy. You can do what you find fun, you can eat what you find good, and you can enjoy the things that you love without having to feel guilty and feel like you're off track or feel as if, you're eating something bad or you shouldn't be having it. And so, if you're new to my channel, I'll give you more in-depth background to my story. Let me just move myself out of the way. I didn't realize how much of it in the way my head was going to be here, but I'll put myself up here. All right, cool. So I'm gonna break down my story for you in case you are new to my channel. I know some of you guys have been watching me, so you can go ahead and skip to the next slide. But if you want a more in-depth background or you haven't really talked to me face to face, here's my background. So I've already mentioned this a little bit, but I grew up in competitive sports. That led for me to experience pressure and stuff and anxiety around performance based because I grew up with my performance being the determining factor of kind of how I was treated a little bit. And so I felt like my self worth was tied to how I performed. And that level of pressure led for me to develop patterns of binge eating, struggling with my self image, my relationship with myself, with my body, with the scale. But growing up in sports, obviously you're in the weight room to enhance your performance on the field, on the court, on the track, whatever. And so I grew up with that lifting background. However, as I got a little bit into high school and college, I started developing struggles with binge eating. And so then there was like a disconnect of, okay, I'm lifting, I know what to do in the gym, but it's just not something's off. Like I don't have my dream physique. I don't like how I look. I'm struggling. And while I was binge eating and doing all this stuff, I was just so frustrated that I was trying to escape. I was searching for an easy way out. So I would struggle to stay sober. I would drink a lot, especially in college and being around other college students, like it was hard for me to resist. And so I would drink a lot, I would smoke, I would just party all the time because I was like, I'm unhappy with my reality, so let me escape it. Um, it was a hard time now that I reflect on it, I think about it. And around that time is also when I was trying all these different diets and stuff that just weren't working. And I was just so burnt out that my only escape felt like partying and doing all that stuff. So when I graduated, I was always putting work and money first. I was like, "Oh, I don't have time, to lift and whatever and do all that. I need to go work. I need to go get money. I need to be financially free. I need to get ahead. I need to do all these things." And so my health and my appearance just took a back seat. And that was more detrimental than one would think. Like you would think, "Oh, all these things are more important," when in reality, nothing is more important than your health and wellness and being able-bodied and having a functional physique that not only makes you confident in what you can do but also confident in yourself and how you look, because you can't progress when you're trying to outwork self-sabotage, when you're trying to outwork the negative relationship you have about yourself. If you deep down believe that you are insecure, that you're not worthy, that you are a loser, whatever, you'll never be able to succeed. And I was just really really stressed and unhappy. But I thought that, graduating, focusing on work and my career and building those things up was the way to go until I started putting my health and wellness first. This comes first, feeling my best, looking my best, proving it to myself every single day, because I realized that that will now help me perform better in all other aspects of my life. So that's when I committed to training for half marathons, full marathons, and then I forced myself to go through my first bodybuilding prep. Not really because I'm a bodybuilder or I want to be a bodybuilder, but more so because I wanted to prove to myself that I can. I wanted to show myself that I can, because I realized that that insecurity I had in myself and that all the excuses that I made and all that kind of stuff was slowing me down everywhere in life. And that was like the cheat code, or the main realization was that I needed to prove to myself that I was worthy. I needed to be confident. The only way to be confident was to force myself to do the things that I didn't want to do and force myself to do difficult things. And so I was like, okay, I'm just going to throw myself into this, and I want to learn as much as I can when things are difficult. I want to keep track of everything. I want to understand my emotions, my mentality, as well as watching my confidence grow. And you can see here, this is just like escaping, running away, being very, very unhappy with my physique. I don't know if you guys can see my face, but I literally, like, I can just tell my eyes look dead. I am shotgunning here. You could tell here with my face that I just wasn't happy. I literally look so chubby right here. And then I'm smoking here. And then you can see here just going through exactly what I just told you guys, putting my health and wellness first, training for things, showing myself that I can, showing up every single day, challenging myself, and learning from every single thing that I felt, because everything that you feel teaches you something. And when you can feel things and move forward rather than letting it affect your decisions, that's really what yields that growth. And so I'm going to tell you guys the mechanism that I ended up coming up with that will shorten this process, make it more efficient, and save you all the headache that I had to go through by all the trial and error that I attempted with myself, so that you guys can do this in the most efficient way possible. Now, I call it the pie mechanism. I built the pie method through my own personal trial and error with data that I've collected for myself after trying a bunch of different diets, training styles, and methods. I wanted the pie mechanism to be something I could trust. That way, when I'm living life, going out, traveling, all that stuff, I could have peace of mind that I'm still on track towards my goals and feeling the most confident in myself. Now, I'm going to get into why I call it the pie mechanism. Pie mechanism is a strategy tailored to your physiological and your psychological patterns. And I call it the pie mechanism because the two common letters between those two words are P and Y. And a lot of us focus on the physiological factors. So, training, cardio, nutrition, when half of the battle is psychological. Half of the reason why you're not where you want to be is because of your mentality. It's because of how you think. It's because of your brain. And I learned in this process that I could rewire my mindset to get me there faster. So when I got my brain to work in my favor and I built a plan using science, that's when I started to see efficient results. Everything else before that, it was inefficient and I struggled and it felt like I was burnt out trying to maintain it. However, when I got to this and understood that this mechanism was the fastest, most efficient way to do it, it's 50-50 on both sides. So it's both psychological and physiological when it comes to transforming yourself. And so the first thing we're going to do is identify the points in the mind. So looking at your mind and figuring out how you can rework that to get you where you want to be. Because if you take a very analytical approach, you can look at your brain and you can figure out exactly what you need to do to give you what you want, because everything that is happening to us is a result of micro habits or patterns that we have and that we do every single day that either we're unaware of or we don't know how to stop. Next, we analyze those patterns and we either figure out the why behind it or we figure out how to stop it. Then we construct the machine. So this pi mechanism is a machine and you want it to be efficient at what it does. And so we look at all the factors that are specific to you, both psychologically and physiologically, and we construct the machine according to that. And after that, we master efficiency. So think of the machine or the pi mechanism as an engine. We want to make sure there's no leaks. We want to make sure that it's fuel efficient. We want to make sure that it's efficient. And so lastly, we want to master efficiency. And then once that engine runs properly and as efficient as possible, it's something that you can drive until the day that you die. The pi mechanism allowed me to achieve the transformation that I'd always dreamed of and spent years attempting to build without requiring me to give up my entire life. Once I discovered the pi mechanism and implemented it with myself and with my clients, that's when we were able to streamline results. So, first, let's start off with identifying points in the mind. So, what I did was improve my discipline and consistency and dedication. Now, in doing so, it made me take that mental transformation. Was it easy? No. Did I change? Yes. Can I do much more things without feeling that resistance for myself because I taught myself consistency, discipline, and dedication? Yes. Now, I had to basically cut out all excuses to be able to improve these things about myself. The reason why we can't be disciplined or consistent or dedicated, or let's say the reason because it may be different for you, although I doubt it, but coming from my point of view, the reason that I struggle with those things is because I made up so many excuses. But I didn't understand that they were excuses. I thought that they were valid. So being able to identify those excuses and cut them out was next on the list. So that was what mainly helped me improve those principles within myself and being able to see, okay, is this an excuse or is this valid? Sometimes we trust too much that it's valid. Next, I would write things down, my goals, my ideas, my thoughts every single day. Learned as much as I could. And right here, you can see that I started planning out my workouts and I started having more structure when it came to that and just writing everything down, because what you track is what you improve. And before, I just used to blindly attempt to do this. And so I started writing things down in fitness terms, in my goals, what I needed to do in the day, and just keeping track of all those things to make sure that I was progressing. Next, I did the things that I said I would, and that made me do two things essentially. Hold myself accountable. When I said I was going to do something, I did it, and also give way more value to my word. Because when you say things and you don't do it, it makes your word worthless, because you're all talk, no action. You don't do anything. And so not only did I become a more dependable, accountable person, but also I progressed towards my goals because I said I was going to do something and I did it. And that made me very reluctant to talk about things if I didn't think I could do it or if I didn't think I was going to do it. So I became no talk, all action. I literally wouldn't say anything, I would just do it. Every night I reviewed the day and planned the next one. Again, what you track is what you improve. So I would sit down and strategize either on a whiteboard or on my computer what I needed to accomplish in the next day, whether it be one thing or three things, to make sure that I progress in all areas of my life. Because this is not just a physical or vanity based journey at the end of the day. That's kind of what I was trying to highlight when I was saying who this is not for. This is about overall improving your whole life, not just your physique. It's just doing your physique is the gateway to improving everything. And then lastly, AM and PM sunlight every single day. This helps for a few reasons. It helped a lot with my lowering my cortisol levels, my mental health, and then regulating my sleep patterns. So when I got sunlight in the morning and sunlight at night, my body kind of understood when it was time to rise, when it was time to sleep, and that was something that I had struggled with in this journey. Next, we can talk about analyzing patterns. So I had wasted too much time watching videos about training, people doing this, people doing that, mindset, motivation, food, instead of just taking imperfect action. I was never going to get anywhere if I did anything. I sat there with analysis paralysis, trying to figure out what's the best this, what's the best that, and that was one of my biggest downfalls. That was a negative pattern that I had. I knew I was capable of more, but that gap between where I was and what I knew I was capable of caused me to suffer. And that suffering led me to, again, not take action, further enforcing that negative pattern that I had. I started understanding that changing my patterns while adapting to my patterns was the perfect medium. So there's a line that you have to walk in this, right? Yes, you have to transform, but also know yourself. So there's things that you know you need to change, like things that are just going to be hard to outwork, like being lazy, not having any discipline, not being consistent, all that kind of stuff. But also, if you're someone who likes to have big meals, for example, or you're someone who has a huge sweet tooth, that is something that you can adapt your plan to. You don't have to cut that out. But the other things, you need to work on improving those. So it's like improving your patterns, but also adapting your plan to meet some of the other patterns. So it's like a good mix. That way, you're not constantly in a state of suffering. After that, I began leveling up, reading books, listening to podcasts, and learning everything I could about the mind and success to help develop patterns necessary for success. So, when I started to understand that this was just as much of a psychological journey as it was a physical or physiological journey, I was like, okay, how can I literally trick my brain or brainwash myself into just becoming this person? And so that's where I started to understand, okay, if I just rework my mindset by doing these things and also using science and taking analytical approach to my nutrition, my training, and all that stuff, it's going to be the perfect mix to get me there in the most efficient way possible, because inefficiency is usually one of two things: either a lack on the mental side or the psychological side, and you're struggling with mental fortitude, or your plan sucks, or it's inefficient, or it's both. That's usually where we start to struggle and it doesn't work. So I began to understand the root of my negative patterns that were keeping me stuck. So I analyzed the patterns, I understood what bad ones that I had, and I took a couple steps back and I was like, okay, why do I do this? Where is this coming from? What is this? It usually boiled down to insecurity, fear, laziness, or just wanting to be comfortable, which led to fear, because when we exit our comfort zone, we're fearful. And so we're reluctant to do so. So next, this is constructing the machine, or constructing that engine that's ultimately going to give us the results. So I did this by trial and error. However, I'm presenting you with all the information necessary to do so, so you won't have to spend nearly as much time as I did on this. I really struggled with confidence in myself, which had made it hard to do a lot of things. Like, I was insecure, so in what world would I take risks or go after goals or do anything, even put myself out there or be able to be myself? I was terrified to be myself because I was insecure. I thought that I didn't deserve to be. I didn't really speak up. I didn't really go talk to people. I didn't take risks or, put myself out there. And I struggled with binge eating. I thought at times, I was skinny fat because of the binging, or I didn't have enough muscle, so I was just too small. And sometimes I just felt like a joke or a loser. That also influenced the way that people viewed me. And so just my overall reality in my life was just not good because of me, because of how I felt about myself, because of just all those things that I was struggling with. And I knew that I didn't want to be that way. I knew I wanted to be confident. I knew I was capable of more. So, something else that was making my machine inefficient was focusing on the direct drivers only. When it comes to building your dream physique or doing this process here, there are both direct and indirect ways, or drivers, that will yield you the results that we have here on the right. When you focus on only the direct drivers, they have to work very, very hard to give you results, especially because I put in parentheses there, not even all of them. Which, when I type that, I mean the direct drivers being, okay, protein, a calorie deficit, training. I focused on a calorie deficit and training. And so those two have to work insanely hard because I'm not even utilizing all three of the direct drivers, as well as not even paying attention to the indirect drivers. So when we think about direct drivers, it's things that directly correlate to getting you to point B or getting you where we are on the right, giving you those results. And then the indirect drivers are going to be things that don't necessarily correlate to that. So, no, being hydrated and getting enough sleep doesn't directly build more muscle and help you lose fat. However, when we get enough sleep, we have more regulation over our hunger hormones, we make better decisions, and our body performs more efficiently. And so, in that way, it does help us get there. But it's more like a domino effect than being a direct driver. So it indirectly helps us grow. Same thing with the nutrition. Carbs and fats don't directly build muscle and help us lose fat. However, they do help us have the energy necessary to push in the gym so that we can build muscle and also lose fat. So there's indirect drivers and direct drivers, and I focus too much on the direct drivers only, as well as not even all of them. So when you focus on that small portion, that portion has to work really hard versus when we focus on everything. So I understood that synergy and efficiency will always beat volume. That ties in with the making the direct and indirect drivers work. So you want to make everything work in your favor and not just two things, because when those two things are working versus those 10 things, those two things have to work a lot harder to produce the results. Whereas the 10 things, because there's so much more of them, they don't have to work as hard. Now, synergy and efficiency will always beat volume in the sense that you don't have to train 7 days a week. You don't have to do hours and hours and hours of cardio. You just want to make sure that everything is working in synergy and efficiently so that you don't have to spend all that time doing those things. That's what allowed me to build the perfect plan. Next, we have mastering that efficiency. So we've built that plan and we understand that efficiency is key, but how do we master it? So I wanted to ensure that I was getting the most out of my time so I could continue living my life to the fullest, because when you make every minute that you have count, you don't have to spend as many minutes doing this shit. And so that's why you want to be efficient. When every minute is spent efficiently, less minutes have to be spent. I refine the plan constantly based on my schedule and my lifestyle. So instead of trying to have an inefficient plan that was making me train 7 days a week when I also had to work, whereas I could have a plan that would make me train maybe 3 or 4 days a week and having to work. That way I could also rest and recover. That's obviously more efficient. So, based on what my schedule was, what my lifestyle was at the time, I constantly adapted my plan to what I was doing so that it was always efficient. Instead of trying to force myself to adhere to a certain work schedule as well as a certain training schedule when they clearly did not align. Because then I would consistently not meet a goal on either side of that equation, and then I would feel that would lead to more insecurity, and then I would start slipping and falling back into my old ways. Tried many ways of doing this, and a lot of the ways that I tried before I discovered my method or built my method was that I always had to give up life. I had to skip out on meals. I couldn't go have fun. I had to track every macro down to the last gram. I couldn't live. I had to always be thinking about this because I wasn't sure if it was working because I didn't know. And so I started to understand that efficiency equaled effectiveness. The more efficient you were, the more effective it was. I began to see the results from a system that I didn't let consume me. And so that taught me that I can live and also do this. And so that's what taught me how to build this mechanism or this method. And then now when I go out and do fun things and still live my life, I'm the most confident, not just in my body, but in myself. So I can go and enjoy it. I don't have that worry in the back of my head of, oh, is this gonna, throw me off my plan? Or I'm gonna binge after going out for dinner one night. Next thing you know, I'm gonna be binging for the next 3 months and not be able to get a grip. Because I follow this mechanism or this method, now I had that sense of assurance and security that I can live and have fun and still be physically fit, still look good, still be confident. And that was something that I had previously struggled with a lot before I built this method. In that process, I achieved my dream physique and my dream self. And previously, I'd felt disappointed and insecure when looking at myself in the mirror. I learned that I was the only one who could fix it, but it shouldn't be a nightmare to maintain your dream physique because you will never feel like you're enough and eventually burn out. I realized that an efficient plan that develops the mind and body is what gave me the freedom and confidence I have today. It's about healing your relationships by taking accountability and control so that nothing can make you feel powerless. Everything I do is to show myself that I can, so that if you think you can't, just know that you can. Now I can live life to the fullest without missing out and be the most confident I have ever been in myself. Now, I don't usually script things, nor do I like to read straight off of the slide, but I did take time to write that because I truly do mean it, and it's a part of what I stand for. And so I wanted to make sure that I articulated it properly to you guys so you fully understand my message. Now, this is exactly what I embody every single day. I'm always struggling to figure out where to put myself. There you go. Okay. That's exactly what I embody every single day, and it's what allows me to live the best life ever, be confident, look good, feel athletic without having to give up the joys of life. And if you're tired of not liking your reflection and feeling insecure, feeling like you're inefficient and not in control, struggling to understand how to make food work in your favor, have drive but don't know how to direct it, and you don't know how to develop your physique, and are also ready to see your full potential, want to have a functional physique, want to look and feel your most confident, and also feel mentally free from the chaos, I strongly encourage you to embark on this journey on your own. If you want to build your dream physique while improving your athleticism without missing out on life, use my pie mechanism that I implement with not just myself, but all of my clients. If you want to work with me one to one to implement this for you and take you through the entire process, I will leave the application to work with me in the description of this video. If you want to see more of my clients, have any questions, or want to personally message me with any questions regarding the mechanism, my program, or whatever you may want to ask, I will also leave my Instagram linked in the description of this video as well. Remember, guys, do hard shit, be confident, have the courage to be uncomfortable, but most importantly, remember how much I love you guys and I am rooting for y'all. I will see you guys in the next video. Thank y'all so much for watching. I love y'all.